Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm thrilled to be talking about the fantastic TV series Paradise. And I am joined today by actor and executive producer Sterling K. Brown, along with actors Julianne Nicholson and James Marsden. And Sterling, in starting with you, one of the things that's so beautiful and intricate in your performance is the fact that both through the job that Xavier is doing, he has to keep his emotions really in check and kind of like very tightly wound. And equally, when we see him at home with his kids, he's really trying to protect them from a lot of his feelings as well. And so there's these two different ways that he's holding things in. And I was just interested in how you approached playing a character where there's so much bubbling beneath the surface, even if he's not always saying a lot on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a wonderful sort of challenge and probably more interesting for an actor to be able to do two things at once. You know what I'm saying? To try to present yourself to the world in a very particular way while there's something underneath the surface that's happening. And it feels like it was a simple thing for this character to do. His job is pretty much the only thing that he has to hold on to besides his children as he is grieving his wife. I don't think his grieving process is out loud in front of people. He's just trying to figure out how to do the best that he can until he can do better, which is probably a rule for most people by and large. But his is sort of like actively working on living with loss, right? I think the time in which he starts to move past that is when he allows himself a little romantic endeavor, and his daughter starts to allow herself a little romantic endeavor. It's like, oh, well, maybe we get to be happy, and then maybe we don't. Got to watch season 2.
And Julianne, for you in playing Sinatra, there's such a nuanced arc to this character in terms of like seeing her when she's so excited when her business is first taking off, and there's, she first meets her husband at the bar, to the way that she becomes very emotionally hardened by the loss that she goes through. And I was interested in how you worked to really chart that out, because it's not like a sudden big change happens. It's all these little moments that take her to that further space.
Hmm.
I felt like that second episode, which is named Sinatra, was such a gift from our incredible creator, Dan Fogelman, because I feel like it's it's a beautiful exploration of one woman's life from young life to, I mean, are we calling it middle age?
Not anymore.
Exactly.
No,
It's the new whatever. Anyway, so I felt like I had everything there written for me. And so I could go through all those different beats within one single episode. And that informed so much of what comes after, why she makes the decisions that she makes. So it was very helpful for me. And I also feel like in terms of an audience's empathy and sort of looking at her as more than just a villain, I mean, Dan just did all of us a favor with that episode.
Yeah.
And James, when Dan Fogelman was writing the script and first presented the idea to you, he said that he had written this character with you in mind. And I thought it was so smart that you asked him, what is it in me that you want to see in this character? And that it was essentially him saying that, you can bring the weight and the levity to the dramatic side, but you can also kind of like bring the lightness and the humor that Cal needs to have, because he's this very charismatic person. And when he told you that, I was interested in how that really helped you to shape Cal as a character in your performance in the show.
Well, yeah, I mean, when he approached me, I think the first thing he said was he mentioned that he would be the president, and I just something inside me just kind of crashed. I was like, I don't know that I can do. And he said, but it's a different kind of guy, and he's started to detail all the different facets that make this character interesting. It wasn't your normal sort of cardboard cutout president. He was a hard drinking, very imperfect guy who found himself in this position, the most powerful man in the world, and didn't really want to be there. So that was interesting to me, and exploring his faults and his regrets, and yet just that sort of the duality of having all this other stuff going on, where he has this broken relationship with his son and does not have a great relationship with his wife, and yet here he is, the president of all of this, and then what does he become when the power dynamics shift and they move to the bunker, and he doesn't really have the same kind of power? I just thought that was a really interesting view of a traditional role that we were used to seeing as the president of the United States. And so, yeah, I was like, well, that maybe I could do. the broken, hard drinking guy.
That fits.
Yeah, that works.
Well done, sir. Well done.
And I mean, for both of you, for Sterling and James, in playing the friendship that develops between your characters, it's such kind of a fascinating dynamic because you can see that there's a real friendship that does develop between them, but there's also still the power dynamic at the end of the day. Like he's working for the president of the United States, and that does inch in certain ways. And so, how did you both find the framework of what that friendship was going to look like?
What did it feel like for you, man? Like it felt very natural because James is a good guy and I just enjoy his company immensely. So like the friendship that developed off camera was easily sort of transferred on camera as well. I mean, I guess I was always sort of cognizant of like, you know what, I can only be friendly up to a point. He still is the most powerful man in the free world, you know what I'm saying? And so that definitely affects things because every once in a while it'll be friendly and then he'd say something like, no, you got to do this. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, you're right. I got to do this, you know?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I wonder if Xavier would be pals with this guy if it wasn't part of the job. I want him to be my friend, maybe more than, I don't know, I don't speak for you, but you know, uh, Cal needed connection. He desires connection. I think that's one thing that's absent in his life. And he looks at Xavier as this sort of stoic, you know, maybe sometimes rigid, very disciplined person that he respects because of all of that. He respects who he is as a man and who he is as a father. And I think maybe he looks at Xavier as like the guy that he could have been or needs to be more like. And but I also feel like he thinks that he could have a little bit more fun. So he starts to try and crack the nut a bit,
Totally.
you know, and loosen him up. And there's moments where they do connect in the hospital bed and it's there's some humor there, but it's also like this really special moment that's very private for both of them. And, you know, and like you said, it gets complicated. You know, I don't think either one of these people were ever going to do anything intentionally or trying to do anything intentionally to wrong the other one.
No.
It just got over his head.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of his big regrets too, is that, you know, I don't know that Cal thinks that he will ever forgive him. But that's the beauty of the journey that we got to go on in season one is really exploring. You don't ever want anything to be sort of, you know, simple and linear. It's just very nuanced and complicated.
I think it's a beautiful example of male friendship, actually, because you really do see that relationship grow and you really feel their deep love and respect for each other, even if it isn't always in words or even actions. It's always there underlying, which I loved watching.
Very bromantic.
Very
I enjoyed
bromantic.
playing.
Very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and Julianne and James, you know, your characters kind of have like an interesting dynamic together because they've known each other kind of like peripherally for a long time, and you know, it's very much Sinatra kind of knowing him mostly through the business dealings with his dad. But I love that the first scene that you shot together for the show was that scene where they're talking outside of the convention, and there's such like an emotional connected moment between the two of them, with him asking about her son and her saying no one ever does, and also just the fact that that was the first scene you'd shot together since you worked on Ally McBeal. And I was interested in how just like having that little bit of history together also really helped with finding that instant history and connection between them when you shot that.
I found that hugely helpful because James and I became pretty good friends with these other two actors that joined the cast at the same time, and we were all really tight for those 6 months. And then life happens and you live in different cities or different countries and you bump into each other.
Call people back
and
you don't email people back and you move out of the country because of this.
New phone, who dis?
Who phone, who this?
But we were always still friendly when we did see each other, and you know, but it was like no time had passed at all.
Yeah.
And having that comparison of, you know, knowing someone pretty deeply and well just from time.
Yeah.
I just looked across the scene at my friend who's known me for 20 years, and it helped me hugely. And we just trust each other and can just you just can automatically like go deeper.
Yeah.
So nice.
There's a comfort that you sometimes, or most of the time actually, have to sort of earn over time when you meet new characters. You work with actors you've never worked with before, and when I saw Julianne, it was just sort of immediately back to a comfort zone because she's a very good friend of mine, closer than maybe she thinks they are. But I also respect her greatly as an artist and as a human being and your instincts. And I just know that it's going to be good when we're together. And same for Sterling. It's like, you just know there's a comfort when you're working with great actors that want to elevate the material and make it great and I don't know, just service the material. So that first scene, it was like, yeah, we joked around, we like talked about it all times, and then we kind of got into it. And the nature of that scene is actually
Like that.
Like that.
yeah, it was kind of like that. So that was helpful. And stuff we didn't like is having to shout at each other. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
And Sterling, in talking about episode 7, where the catastrophic event hits,
Yeah.
there's so many mental gymnastics at play in terms of what you have to be doing for your character throughout that episode, because he's trying to make sure that his kids are getting to him safely. He's trying to get his wife to him. He's also trying to protect the president. And then there's so many staff around that are asking things of him, or, suspect that he knows more than they do, and trying to get answers to understand everything. And I was just interested in kind of what went into shooting that episode for you with all of that at play.
That was so much fun. Like it sounds exhausting, and I think it was exhausting, but also exhilarating, to have all those different balls in the air to sort of juggle at the same time. And then there'd be times where I just got to listen. Like I remember listening to James deliver his 2 speeches to the public and being like, and I rolled up on him. I rolled up on the big dog and I said, "How's it feel? Are you ready for it?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Number 2. And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "The second nomination, big dog. It's coming your way." And he's like, "No, what are you talking about? You tried to go all Oklahoma and everything." I was like, no. It's going to happen. So like, it was great. Like there was a lot of logistics that went into that episode. Like they planned a lot in terms of like just so much walking and talking and sort of doing our little ode to Sorkin from time to time, popping through this White House. But like when it came together, God, how fulfilling was it? Because people were exhausted, people were tired. But when you got a chance to see the final product, you were just like,
Yeah.
got that joint, man.
Yeah.
Felt good.
Yeah.
And for you, James, with Cal throughout that episode, there's his emotions and his feelings, but he knows and understands that he has to push them aside because there's a version of himself that he needs to be for everybody around him. And it's also the episode where we get to see him really become the person that he's always said he wants to be as a leader, in that moment. And so what were some of the nuances that you found in playing those scenes on the day?
Well, again, I'm going back to Dan and the writing. I feel like I'm not trying to wax anybody's car here. Like it really did feel like most of the work was done for me. It was so beautifully laid out, what he had been struggling with leading up to that day, what was asked of him of that day. And I think it was a moment for him to, if I don't do it right now, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do it right. And it could not be more important to do the best you can and to do the right thing. So it was really just great to play because I admired the character during all of that. I knew also you recognize how fallible he is still. Like, he's still saving his family, so it's complicated, but it's a really, the beautiful scene with the janitor and he was so wonderful and just like made time crawl for a minute when they had no time. It was a really special thing to be a part of that.
Yeah.
The show in general, but that episode was just,
That episode was extra for sure. I felt like just a pure audience member because I wasn't there for any of the last day stuff, and it blew me away. And watching you guys just rise to that challenge and have every moment be so layered and unexpected and alive, it like knocked me out. I love that episode.
nice.
Yeah.
Good. There was an eerie. Well, I think they mastered about that episode was no one was banging their heads up. Well, they eventually did, like running around going crazy. But leading up to that moment where we evacuated, there was a calm quiet, like when you're on a plane and there's really bad turbulence.
Yeah.
And no one's making a sound. Yeah, that to me speaks so much volume of like the intensity of what's going on in the room.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was one of those episodes where like you watch it and you forget you're in it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And Julianne, with Sinatra, we get to kind of see through everything that happened with her son how having all the money in the world, there was nothing that she could do to control the situation or change what happened, and losing him. And, so you suddenly see this woman channeling her grief into a place of, if I can control things, then everything's going to be okay, and it obviously plays out with such a different ferocity throughout the rest of the episodes. But I was interested in kind of getting to play that side of her and find the intensity of it, but also looking at what does it look like when someone pulls at the threads, because you can never control everything and everyone around you realistically.
Yeah. Well, I guess it is basically, a woman who has been so destroyed by grief, and she is holding on so tightly. And as you say, you can have all the money in the world, but there are things bigger than you that you cannot control. And that just starts to eat away at her. And yeah, it all ultimately falls apart. Spoiler. Yeah.
I I mean, for you, Sterling, with Xavier, there's that conversation that he has with his wife at one point where she's like, you always kind of put a lid on everything and you're able to control things, but one day you're going to break, and I'd hate to be the other person when that happens. And what was it like for you getting to discover who is he when he hits that breaking point in those last couple of episodes?
I mean, it's fun, it's like the third act of the movie where the protagonist decides to take action, right? And it's funny because like in my mind, I had this conversation with myself with regards to Sinatra's, like, how hard is he allowed to go after her? And then at the end of the day, I said, I'm going to take off any restraints or whatnot. Like, I think the most equitable treatment of this character is like, I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can because she has destroyed life. Like, that's it. Like, she has destroyed life as I know it, and I don't like her. I love Julianne. I love the sweet, sweet Julianne. She's sweet, sweet. But Sinatra is like, oh, I don't like her at all. And it was fun and also sort of like a little scary, to be perfectly honest with you, because there's a part of you, and I don't want to go too far, but you have to tap into something inside of yourself that's like, if you were in this situation, could you go to this particular place, right? And I was like, yeah, I could. Like, I legitimately could. And there's like, before Jane comes in and whatnot, I was like, no, it's time to go. Like, if you take my child, you have to, and I think we're all parents here. Like, that's probably the one thing. Like, I want to live for everyone, right? If you take my child, it's the one thing that I would die for / kill for. Like, that's probably it. Really, it's my child. So yeah, that's it. That's what I got.
Yeah. That was definitely intense, that scene. And because of course it's all acting, but you're still on either the giving or receiving end of that moment. And it's intense when you're looking across at someone and they're, a little bit gone from the eyes. Like, that was Xavier and that was not my friend. And it's definitely intense, but I think it's why the show people are so connecting with the show. They can feel that too when they watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, for you, James, the conversation that he has with his dad, where he talks about feeling like he was a chess piece in his dad's game, is so heartbreaking. In that moment where he's like, were you ever even proud of me? Because I've been miserable my whole life doing everything you expected. And, we kind of see the night that he passes away, that all of the relationships closest to him are kind of feeling really distant, and he feels so lonely and isolated. And I was just interested in playing that scene and that heartbreaking moment of his dad not even acknowledging his question.
Yeah, well, he's starting to see him. I mean, I feel like the disconnect has been for decades now, but this was another, just a moment of self-reflection for him to really look at his life and try to figure out where it all went wrong. And maybe he's directing some of that at his father. And I don't think his intention is to get into an argument with him but I think it feels like it's it's a last ditch effort to speak honestly with his father and maybe glean some sort of something from him or give him an opportunity or permission to connect with me and make sense of it all. I don't think he hates his father. I just think, I don't know. I think he just, again, wants connection and I think some validation from his father
Sure.
as well. I think he wants that too, but, because I think in asking that question, he's also making a statement of all I ever wanted to do was make you proud.
Dude,
Uh,
an attaboy and attaGirl goes a long way for any
Yeah.
and everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Nice, and, lovely to have those scenes with Mac. I mean, just, he's so gifted and so,
Sure.
like, so dialed into,
Stick.
yeah.
Definitely. Well, you've all given such beautiful and nuanced performances in this show. So congratulations on all of the very well-deserved Emmy nominations, and thank you for talking about it.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.